Hello and welcome to Dream Team Coach TV, brought to you by Betway. I'm Sean Burke. Joining me is Nick Elliott, Andy Taylor and Jack Townsend. Coming up on this week's show.
I probably still will end up watching it. It's just one of those.
Oh yeah, I'll watch it. I will watch it, yeah, and I'll be just sad and as if you're trying to give yourself a little sneaky top half place there. Look at him. I mean, I'm still fully on the Liverpool bandwagon.
Oh, I know who it is.
I bet you do. What have you just seen, Jack?
Like you said, it'll probably be a bit of a dull affair anyway. Put that in the show. Put that in the sizzle.
Coming out this week. A bit of a dull affair.
Another week, another Liverpool loss as the Reds lost a Merseyside derby for the first time in over a decade last weekend. They're now 19 points behind Man City, who look as catchable as a soapy Jack Grealish. West Ham are deservedly in fourth place too, which makes me think, are the days of the traditional top six a thing of the past?
No, they're not, Sean.
No.
Because financially, they still run the roost. Reading between the lines of the recent kind of findings of, they're trying to expand the Champions League, that all kind of boils down to the big six. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's because, like, how reckless can, say, a Spurs or an Arsenal be before they get chucked out of the big money boys kind of top six, not actual, like, ability top six?
I mean, it needs to be rebranded, doesn't it? You're right. It needs to be the rich six.
Yeah.
No, we can have the actual big six, as in whoever's actually finishing in the top six regularly. And then you can have the rich six, which includes, for some reason, a couple of teams that keep finishing mid-table.
It's weird these days now seeing the financial power of it. It's about seeing a team like Arsenal pay what was like 50 million for Thomas Partey, and they're now 10th in the league. It's like,
sorry, 11th in the league.
Don't worry about it. 10th.
As if you're trying to give yourself a little sneaky top half place there. Look at him. He's not even in the top half, mate.
Have you even got games in hand?
No, they don't. No. They literally don't.
You're not that team that are in 10th are pretty good as well. So don't.
Oh.
Hey, the team 1 point behind them is not too bad either.
Is it Big Six just because they're the European spots? Could it be expanded to the Big Eight or the Big Ten now?
Where does it end?
I mean, Leeds traditionally were like one of the big UK clubs, right?
I'm all for the Big 17. That's what it effectively is. If you get relegated, it's obviously terrible financially, but if you stay in the league, it's pretty good. So we could have the Big 17.
Who would be on the? Because, I mean, say Leicester are probably the closest to it, right? But with all respect, their kind of fan base, stadium, global audience would just not be in a league of all the other six. West Ham this year, based on obviously league position at the moment, but, how far does their fan base go outside of East London?
Leicester still, in theory, wouldn't be that far away because they have won the league. I don't know. I would say that they're probably, it wouldn't be mental if they would replicate at least Spurs' global audience or popularity.
I just don't feel like, say, a Leicester, who is probably the closest to breaking into that top six. I don't feel like you would want to go and support Leicester. Just say if you lived in London, right, and you just didn't fancy any of the London clubs, I don't think you'd go and just randomly support Leicester. Whereas
I don't know.
I don't think you would.
Would you not? I think they've got quite a lot. I quite like Leicester. I quite like the idea of Leicester.
Yeah, they play good football. They've got some exciting players. I mean, what tips? You just wouldn't
go and support Leicester. I don't mind Leicester. There's no global appeal to Leicester. Whereas Arsenal, they do well on social media. They've got particularly social media. I mean, that's just their biggest win at the moment. It's a negative, but it's also a positive because that's where they all live on there, isn't it? All of the Arsenal boys.
Okay, hold fire on the chat for a few minutes as it's time for the 4 to Score challenge. This week, our sponsor Betway has set us an odd job looking at some odd jobs after Lee Grant was spotted holding the substitution board in Man United's win against Newcastle. So the question is, what other random roles have footballers ended up in? Well, I've got 4 photos here of players in careers you wouldn't expect to see them in, and you guys have to tell me who they are. And here's photo number 1.
This is horrible. I can't think of this at all. Who had a webbed tattoo on their knee?
I'm just going to go for a traditional football goth.
Go one of two here.
One of two, please. It's like it's one of about 40,000.
That tattooed footballer.
Ooh, a tattooed footballer.
The answer is Daniel Agger.
Oh,
Yes.
Love that.
I was genuinely thinking Agger as well.
Picture number 2. So this one's going a bit further back, this player.
There's not much to go off, is there? Can you recognise that untattooed, unmarked hand?
All right, I'm going to have to press you now, lads.
Just looking for a name badge. Oh, there actually is one bottom left, but it's someone else's.
The answer is David Ginola.
Oh, of course it is.
It's Glasgow like that, straight away.
Of course, it's a Spurs player.
You can spot a Spurs. But it's his hand. That's all you can see.
Yeah, Grass will know Ginola's hand.
Imagine if you zoomed in on that name badge, Jack, and it said David Ginola's agent.
All right, picture number 3. Here we go.
That doesn't look like it. Could be Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis. Just a mumble whistling. Lewis Hamilton. I think I know this.
I definitely know this. I am so certain I know this.
Are they? Is it a player or?
It's a player.
Oh, I know who it is.
I bet you do. What have you just seen, Jack? What have you just seen? Something in the lower third?
I know that guy.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I know his waistline.
Well, that's my bad. It is Fabian Barthez. What gave it away? It's in such small writing. I thought it was another sponsor. All right, well, this one, I'd be surprised if any of you know this one. Picture number 4.
Good Lord, what?
What are we even looking
Now,
at?
allegedly, all of these men are professional footballers.
What kind of era?
Yeah, what year are we
So
talking?
he's from, let's say, mid-2000s Premier League player.
Does he have his name on his belt?
He's a Spurs player. Grass will know, like, his abs or something.
It's not a Spurs player. Yeah, played in the Premier League for 9 years. Scored some pretty cracking goals. Do you want a clue? Well,
Yeah, one more clue.
he's from like the Scandinavian area, that kind of
Okay.
region. I have all your answers. And here we go. Morten Gamst Pedersen.
Yes.
How have you got that, Townsend?
Big goals, Scandinavian, 9 years.
Wow, I thought that was dead on John Onorisa.
Congratulations to Jack. You filled in the gaps better than a Liverpool fringe player. Now it's back to the football chat. Well, what about West Ham, though, at the moment? I mean, they're in the top 4. Does everybody see this as kind of a one-season fluke that you see every now and then? Even like Sheffield United last year.
Well, they deserve, full credit. Like, I don't know. I remember we did on this show, we were talking about them, who's had the worst summer, who's had the biggest disaster. And we were saying, in terms of the way they run and the way they finished last season or whatever, they looked shambolic. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Moisey was up there
yeah.
with the sack list as well for us.
Exactly. I mean, if you Guardiola aside, because they've won a million games in a row, Moyes has got to be, manager of the year. And some people would say maybe even over Guardiola because of the players that Guardiola's got at his disposal. But I mean, if someone wins 18 whatever games it is in a row, then it's kind of hard to look anywhere else. But
Yeah,
the job that Moyes has done, and I for one owe him an apology. I wasn't an absolute Moyes basher. I wasn't like I wasn't putting him in quite the same category as your big Sams, etc. But
yeah.
and he's done it by like basically in the last few years they've tried to succeed by going for like outrageous talent. Like Felipe Anderson, Yarmolenko, Haller, all these kind of like talented players, but maybe question about how committed they are or whether they are kind of disciplined. And Moyes has basically ditched that approach and gone, do you know what we need? We need a couple of Czech lads who just give 110% every game.
Yeah.
We need some good proper British players, which I'm pretty sure he did say once in like when he was Sunderland manager, like, we need a few more British players, which at the time sounded a bit dodgy. And now it's quite good. Cresswell, Jared Bowen, all these lads. fair play, because he's essentially from an outsider view stopped playing all of what people would have called their best players.
What's mad is that they got rid of him in his first term with them.
This is the other thing, isn't it, about Moyes, where it's do you owe Moyes an apology? Have you been slagging him off? Everything between Everton and this this reign has been pretty disastrous. Like, okay, yeah, following Fergie at Man United, that's a tough gig. But the first spell at West Ham, Sunderland, that was.
But I thought he did well at West Ham first time. No, didn't he drag him out of relegation? So
I think he was all right, but I mean, I don't think it was.
Because his name's David Moyes that you're saying that though.
No.
What was the Portuguese lad that came in and saved? He didn't even save Hall, and he went down, and everyone was absolutely buzzing over it. Yeah, and it's like it was awful, and yet because he's Portuguese and he plays nice football, we're all loving him.
I'm not saying that Moyes. I'm saying Moyes does deserve credit. I'm just saying that, and it's like, we've been wrong about Moyes the whole time. He's actually an amazing manager. It's like he is doing a really good job now, and he did do a good job at Everton. But like, if you ask Sunderland fans now, do you owe Moyes an apology? Saying he's a bad manager, I'm sure they'd say no. He did a terrible job with us.
What would David Moyes' Portuguese name be, Andy?
Well, Pedro Moyes.
Diego Moyes.
Yao Moyes.
Diego Moyes.
You haven't given that your full heart.
No, look, I mean, just on the West Ham, I mean, the sad reality is that West Ham won't finish top four. I'm not trying to be controversial here. It's just, you look at what Tuchel's doing at Chelsea now. They're not even, they're just being really resolute and just getting results. I mean, that win against Atleti. No way will Liverpool not finish above West Ham. No way will Chelsea not finish above West Ham. In terms of, is it a one-season wonder? Well, I mean, I think personally, looking at that squad, the key difference there to what I've seen of that team versus any other year is that Rice and Souček partnership in the middle, / there's no Mark Noble anymore. And I love Mark Noble. I think he's been a great servant, but when you actually see what Rice and Souček are doing in the middle of the park, it's phenomenal. But there was protests probably a year, maybe even more recent than that, against the owners for a reason, because Declan Rice, they'll be itching to sell him. Like, they cannot wait to sell him and cash in on Declan Rice. So if he goes, that's huge. Jarrod Bowen and Ben Rama and Lingard, they're all great, but they'll definitely go through good spells and bad spells. It's that middle two that's been the rock this season. Like, how rare is it that you see a team such as West Ham have a player like Declan Rice, who's an England international, should be playing for probably a top six side. Top six.
Rich six.
Rich six, yeah. For his own sake, for his own career, why would he turn down 200 grand a week and Champions League football? You just wouldn't do it, would you? And I'm not saying he's a snake or anything like that. I'm just saying that makes sense. I would do exactly the same thing.
Declan Rice, yeah, he loves making a transfer and just leaving everybody in the lurch.
Yeah, I'm not saying he was a snake, Sean.
And I was like, I feel like we should touch on Liverpool before we move on as well, just quickly. Nick, I read your newsletter, and I didn't see any of Jurgen Klopp's reaction outside of that. But was he blaming the wind?
The wind. It's a Klopp classic now, isn't it? The wind. Yeah, you can't play football in this heavy wind or something like that. I just thought, God, wasn't it weird how the wind really picked up whenever Liverpool had the ball and then completely settled when Richarlison was still on goal, and then it blasted up again whenever Liverpool had the ball. So, and then he said, yeah, at this stage I'm thinking, God's a Man City fan. It's just like,
come on.
For a start, Liverpool aren't City's rivals anymore. They're so far behind. Why would God need to intervene in a Europa League clash?
I mean, I'm still fully on the Liverpool bandwagon. You just don't lose what they've been doing for the last 3 years overnight. It is a blip. Mm-hmm. They clearly miss. I keep saying it. They clearly miss Van Dijk so much. Like, we can't even begin to understand how much they miss Van Dijk. You could play Van Dijk and Firmino at the back, and they'd be keeping clean sheets. I still back them fully to get top four. I mean, obviously the league's done, but as I've said, it's not about this season for them. It's just consolidate, build next summer, get Van Dijk back, get Jota back.
Okay, it's time for the memes. Each week, our panelists submit a meme to the Dream Team Instagram page, and you folks get to vote for your favourite. So if you're not already following us on Instagram, head on over to our page and get involved. I believe the first meme was yours, Jack.
It is me. And I mean, I have gone route one in terms of who I've included, Man City. But it was a case for me finding the source clip and then trying to work something into it. I've got so many questions. Is her husband? Is that just a randomer? Like, is she okay?
It's good. It's good.
Right, next up, I think, is this yours, Nick?
Yeah, I didn't have much inspiration, to be honest.
You're not on that bandwagon, are you, Nick?
No. I'm not.
He doesn't even believe in his own meme. And finally, Andy with a West Ham related one as well.
Well, I've always got Nick just living rent free in my head at the moment when I'm making these, so I'm trying my best to stray away from Arsenal trying to get into the top four.
And I hope it's working. I really like them.
This one's really quality.
Well, let's see how much everybody else liked it. In last place this week, with 113 points, is Nick.
Yeah, that's fair.
With the J.
That's 113 too many. That must have been some absolute die-hard West Ham fans.
In second place with 346 is Jack Townsend. Great source. That means in first place with 751 votes is Andy Taylor.
Fair play. You're changing the game. You've reinvented it.
Passing through the lines, progressive.
Do you not feel more satisfying getting a win with, James Ward-Prowse, Thomas Suchet?
I actually do.
We've got a cracking lineup of fixtures this weekend with Leicester versus Arsenal, Man City versus West Ham, but most intriguingly, Chelsea versus Man United. Thomas Tuchel seems to have steadied the ship at Stamford Bridge, having won 4 out of their last 5 league games. It's not quite a miracle yet, but he did coax a goal out of Timo Werner, so he's got it in his locker. Man United arrive in London 10 points behind leaders Man City. Are they just playing for a top 4 place now?
I mean, I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but I think this game's going to be really dull.
Yeah. Well, every other big game we've anticipated.
Really, just not spoiler alert, but in my 4 to score selections, I'm going no goal scorer. Just because, there's nothing pressing that either team are playing for, right? Like Chelsea are on an upward curve. United are firmly in the top 4. Tuchel just doesn't want to break that kind of momentum that he's got. He'll be more than happy with a point against Man United, who are, the league's top goal scorers. I mean, that's a great point if he can keep a clean sheet there. And equally, Ollie, I mean, why wouldn't he want a nice little 0-0 point against Chelsea? They're not catching City. There's no way that he's talking to himself in the dressing room game. We're going to take this City. I mean, have you seen City? It's unbelievable. And they've just got De Bruyne back and Aguero sneakily on the bench now as well, just to come off in the last 10 minutes when they need it. Don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
I probably still will end up watching it. It's just one of those.
Oh yeah, I'll watch it. I will watch it. Yeah, and I'll be just sad and just be like, I knew this was going to happen.
Have something on your phone at the same time. It's 5 years since Marcus Rashford's debut. And you said he scored against Tuchel's last side. You don't see him showing up this weekend, Andy,
Oh, it's hard, isn't it? Because everyone loves Rashford, and he's a good player, but he's never going to be the level that Bruno's at. And I don't want to be negative towards him because I do. Obviously, he's a great guy, and he is a good footballer, and probably will end up scoring 100 Premier League goals, and going down as a very top striker. But I don't know. He's just not got dragged Man United to the league title written all over him. I think he needs a lot of support around him.
Do you not think he can kick on? It is his only first 5 years. For instance, I did a bit of digging. I was trying to think of players to compare him to in their first 5 years. I thought, well, might as well go with one of the best, and that's Ronaldo. And in a similar amount of games in their first 5 years, there's not much of a difference in the goals they've scored.
So what, you think that Rashford's going to be Ronaldo then?
I'm not saying that, but there was.
Well, that's what you are basically saying.
But Ronaldo had better players around him, so he probably was learning more. But there was a point where Ronaldo kicked on. In his first 3 seasons at Man United, he only scored first season 6, then 9, then 12, compared to Rashford, which was very similar.
There's not many times where I've watched Rashford and I've my jaw's dropped and I'm like, wow, I would not want to play against this lad. You know, and
Yeah.
having said that, I've not played the game. And Jack, we did that interview with
Neil Etheridge.
Neil Etheridge the other day, and he said the hardest player he's ever played against as a keeper is Marcus Rashford. So, I mean, what do I know? He obviously knows more than I do. But just if you're making the Ronaldo comparison, I mean, when I watched Ronaldo when he was 20 years old, I was like, wow.
Rashford is like kind of emblematic of this Man United era, right? Like he's, you know, homegrown, kind of probably has featured in the most games for like the last 3 or 4 seasons for Man United. So he's kind of, when you think of the last 4 seasons for Man United, you probably think of Rashford first, just because and so maybe he's kind of tarnished with an unfair brush because it hasn't been a great few years for Man United, at least compared to obviously Fergie's era and all that. Maybe people just, you know, think, oh, that was a bad time, and I immediately think of Rashford as our best player, so maybe he's not that good. But like you say, Jack, if you plopped him in another era kind of thing, if you put him in that Man United side of the late noughties, not saying he'd reach Ronaldo levels, of course, that no one does, but he probably would. You know, people would look differently upon him, even if he was playing the exact same standard.
All right, hopefully it'll show up this weekend. Like you said, it'll probably be a bit of a dull affair anyway. Put that in the show. Put that in the sizzle, in the highlight. Probably be a bit dull.
Come out this week. A bit of a dull affair.
Well, that's all from us, folks. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Dream Team Coach TV, brought to you by Betway. So update those dream teams. Get your dream team selector sorted this week as well. Enjoy the football, and we will see you again next time. Take care.